folks. I'm trying a new setup at the school, but I only have one screen, so when I hit play, all you're going to see is this repeated. Let me put over to PowerPoint. So we're going to continue. I have no idea whether my face is still in this frame. I might re-record this, just warning you, fair warning. I just want to do real quick upload for the crank and slider. That's the next mechanism we're talking about. And the crank and slider is a mechanism that will convert between rotational motion and reciprocating linear motion, back and forth. So the flow of power could go either way. You could have some devices where you turn the crank and that makes the slider go back and forth. And you have other machines where the slider's being pushed back and forth and that turns the crank around. There's a couple different ways it can go. You can also change direction most of the time too. Those are two things it often asks you about for these mechanisms. Does the flow of power reverse or not? And can the direction reverse? So in a crank and slider, let's just look at the picture of it for a second. I don't have any way to really gesture, maybe the mouse. It's the one they make with a Vex part. So using a cam over here for the crank, and they've attached this little chunk to a little strip of metal up here to the wide end of the crank, and it's attached to the slider. And that's the same slider we use with rack and pinion gear. It's the same slider we use with the lead screw. It's basically a track with a little sliding truck on it. It goes back and forth. And as this rotates, when this end comes closer to where the track is, it's going to push the slider truck farther along. And when this part rotates off to the other side again, it's going to push it or pull it back towards itself. So you've got the two things that could happen is if you have the input be the sliding part and the output is your rotational part. And this is an excellent example in engines. You've got a lot of our internal combustion engines have this mechanism in them. The piston is being pushed back and forth by the inputting the gas, exploding the gas, burning it up, and then the vacuum that's created pulls it back up again, and that piston goes in and out, and as it goes in and out, the part of it's attached to the crankshaft will turn the crankshaft. So it's in motors. There's also, you could have the power coming from the rotating part, and then the sliding part is the part that's the output or the driven part. And an excellent example of that is pumps. There are all sorts of pumps that have a rotating part, and as that comes in and out, it pulls liquid or something up into the chamber and then pushes it back out again. The total distance your slider can travel is going to depend on sort of the distance from the center of rotation that your crankshaft is attached, or not the shaft, the rod is attached to. If you got a rod attached really close, it's only going to be able to go from like one side to the other. And if it's really close to that pivot in the center, hopefully you can see my fingers. If it's really close to that pivot in the center, you're going to have only like that much of a travel distance for your slider. But if you have a larger crank and it's attached farther away, then when it's over here and then when it's over there, that's a larger distance it can travel. So it all depends on diameter. If we increase the size of the crank gear, what's that mean for the distance? I kind of just gave it away. If it's farther away, then you're going to have a longer distance you can travel. And specifically mathematically, it's going to be like if I go out 1 inch farther from the center, that gives the total displacement. It can go 2 extra inches and go 1 more inch this way and 1 more inch this way. So that's how it works. In real life, where do we see them? A lot of the time, internal combustion engines. Just saying. That's like the most common place to find cranks and sliders right now. But you know what I learned about that was really cool? You have devices, machines that are built to test other things like furniture. Like how often can I open and close a drawer before it falls apart? Or open and close the door on a microwave or oven or something before it falls apart? You can attach this thing and the part that rotates will make the arm go in and out, and it's going to pull that drawer up and slam it back again, over and over again. So that's one way that it's used. I don't know if the one in the picture here is a crank and slider, or if it's a pneumatic thing. It could be pneumatic. Sorry, my email's going off. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. I'm like, you know what? That's a great use. And then pumps. You can have metering pumps that are very precise amounts of fluid come in and out. And those are the only ways I really found out when I did some cursory research. I'll do some more research if I'm going to re-upload this later. I'll do more research first and get you a couple more options. But there you have it. There's my crank and slider presentation. There will be something up on Canvas for y'all to do. And we'll hopefully be able to build one here in the next few days. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Let me get you, or evening, whatever time of day is you're watching. And I will get back to y'all later. Bye.